Hey, 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 I am Dr. Raquel. Welcome to Mexico Mondays. So, if you are new to Mexico Mondays, I am Dr. Raquel, and between my husband and I, we have lived in 5 different countries, and currently our family has Mexican residency. And I am taking this time to talk to you about all the things that we did to get our residency and also what we're managing now that we have our residency and are packing it all up and moving from the US to Mexico. So it is really great to be here with you all today. And there are two things I want to really touch on today, and I'll probably talk about more. But one is people keep asking me, like, why are you moving to Mexico? Why are you moving? Where are you moving to Mexico? How did you decide where you're moving to Mexico? So I just want to touch on that a little bit during our time today. So one is we are planning to move to Merida, Mexico. And initially, we were planning to move to Puerto Morelos, Mexico. And we were knee deep in Puerto Morelos. We met some people from Puerto Morelos, and we had decided like that's where we're going to be. And then we were watching some YouTube videos, also the ones where you like walk through the streets of the cities. And it just so happened that a video from Merida popped up and we just didn't get to the channel quick enough to change it. And then we were like, what is this Merida? And a lot of people I have worked with have moved to Merida, and I hadn't considered it myself just because I didn't want to move to a place that was heavily populated with US citizens. And so the more research that we did, the more that I was able to see that there it aren't really large expat or US communities in Merida, but it very much is mixed into the Merida culture. And so you still will get a definite vibe of Mexico while you're in Merida, but you might meet some US citizens in the meantime. And so we were like, I think we're going to give Merida a try. What we were more sold on for Merida is that Puerto Morelos for us seemed to be kind of like two specific areas, La Colonia and then I forgot the other part. And so there didn't seem to be much like in between. You were either kind of in like the more touristy area, which was more expensive by the beach, or you were in town, which was very local and not by the beach. Like those are kind of the two options that you had. And so when we looked into Merida, it seemed like they just had more variety in terms of like places to live, which appealed to us. And so what we decided was that when we actually went to get our residency cards, we would go to Merida for those residency cards and scope it out. And that's what we did. And every single person loved it, which is fantastic. So, what I think is so great about Merida too is it's like, so we stayed mostly in the city center, but we explored lots. And so you can be in the city center and you like walk out 10 minutes and you're in a completely different feeling neighborhood. You drive out 3 minutes a different direction, you are in another completely different feeling neighborhood. It's like there are just so many different vibes of communities all in this like central area. And so that's one of the things that we loved about the city. Like we would be in an Uber and then we would ask like, okay, so where are we again? Because I love this. Or like, can we like get out somewhere near here? Because this is a great area. And there were so many times that we did that. So it was just like a really cool spot. We walked around a lot, and we felt very safe. So safety was another thing that was very important to us. And when we were researching Merida, we found that it was rated one of the safest cities in North America, including all cities within the US. So that was definitely a huge sell for us. And then of course, like we just kind of were vibing with the city and the people and decided that that's where we were going to plan to start our life in Mexico. Now, I also say start our life in Mexico because the other part of that is that Merida is super hot in the summer. And so, I don't necessarily want to be living in Hades in the summer either. So, That's where we decided that we're going to start. We may decide to spend summers in a different part of Mexico. As you all know, Mexico is very diverse, and it is also very diverse in terms of climate. And so we might find another area that we stay in the summer and go back to Merida when it's a little bit cooler. We may go back to the US when it's cooler. We may go to Belgium in the summers. We don't know. So we're kind of playing it by ear, which I think is really the second point that I want to touch on, which is you have to be flexible. You cannot be a stickler for things when you're moving abroad. You can say, like, these are the things I want. This is the type of community I want. But in terms of like just kind of being very rigid in the process, it is not going to be helpful. And I am very type A. So that was something that I had to learn. I can continue to be type A and then be upset all the time, like when things don't happen. Like, okay, we have an appointment at this time and we're not starting at this time. What are we waiting for? Like, what's going on? Okay, then you'll always be upset that you're waiting. Um, and so it's very important to just be flexible because also we're going there. If we find that it's not a good fit, we can find another place in Mexico, but also, or somewhere else. And also, once you have moved abroad, especially like several times to different places, you know that the world is yours. Like you're not confined to any specific area ever again. And so especially if you have a US passport. If you have a US passport, do you know how many places you can just go and live for half a year or a quarter of the year? You can live in 4 different countries a year if you wanted to, completely legally, no visas. Like what? That's amazing. And it's just because of the passport that you hold. So it's important to just understand the privilege that we carry with US passports. Um, that everybody does not have the same access to the world in the way we do. So why not take advantage of it? And that's really where we are with it. We are like, that's where we're going to start. We'll see where we end. But right now, we're super excited about Merida. And so I think it's important just to figure out like how much uncertainty can you tolerate? And I've grown over the years. I will say that I have grown like I can handle a lot more uncertainty than I used to be able to handle in the past. But I also think it's because I have had so many successes through my uncertainty. When we moved to Germany, we got there with visas, and they were like, okay, they told me I will get a like dependent visa when we get to Germany. And then I got to Germany and they were like, mm-mm, you have 90 days to find a job or you will be going without your husband back to the US. And so I found a job and I did not speak German well at that time. And um, I figured it out. And then in Belgium, we also had, a time where my husband had to get his visa and he had the wrong visa. And so, then we had to figure that out. We've had to figure, like, when we lived in Germany, we had, well, Belgium too, actually. We had taxes in German, taxes in Dutch. You figure it out. It's just like when you are abroad, you just figure it out. Or you don't, and then there are consequences to it. But if you don't want the consequences, you figure it out. And so I think it's helped me to be much more like flexible over the years than I have been in the past. And so that's something I definitely have to stress. It is very important to maintain your openness and flexibility to be able to be nimble, which is also why like we are not moving with more than one large suitcase and one duffel bag a person. And so if it can't fit in the suitcase and the duffel bag, then it's not going. And that's how we moved to Germany. That is our family rule of moving abroad. Last time we had boxes and boxes in my parents' garage, and we did not see them for more than 8 years, which means we didn't need that. We could have thrown it right away, and they could have had space in their garage. And so this time we're learning from our mistakes, and we are not keeping the other stuff. So now's the time that I'm kind of going through. We're getting rid of all the things. And so yeah, it's an interesting process, which I will share about at another time. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to share with y'all today, kind of why we selected Merida and what our plan is and how it is super important to just remain open and flexible through this whole process. Otherwise, you're just going to stress yourself out for no reason. So. All right, y'all. Well, it was great talking to you, and I will see you at the next Mexico Monday. Bye.